Welcome to Sales for Nerds. I'm your host and chief nerd, Ruben Swartz. If you started a business because you love serving clients but realized you didn't like the sales and marketing aspect of running that business so much, this is the podcast for you. Sales and marketing doesn't have to suck. It can actually be a lot of fun. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to connect instead of network, teach instead of market, help instead of sell, so you can keep serving people even while you're building your pipeline and growing your business. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited to have with me Steve Ramona. He is the podcast host of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart, a wonderful podcast that I was lucky enough to be a guest on recently. He's also the host of the TV show Together We Serve. He's all about how we can serve others and live a richer, more meaningful, better life by actually thinking about other people. What do you know? Steve, welcome to Sales for Nerds. I know it's a little bit early for you there, so you don't have a glass of good stuff like I've got. I am usually a red wine person, as longtime listeners know. I am on some medication that makes the red wine taste funny, and so the white wine is not quite as badly affected, so I am drinking some EQ Sauvignon Blanc from Chile.
Nice.
Welcome to the show. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Salute. And thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Steve, how did you get into this whole notion of let's go about business by serving others?
Started back at 18 years old out of high school, and my family started a health club. And my cousin, who was the president, said, "Hey, why don't you come work for me? Work the front desk, make some money for summer, and you're going to go play football in community college, junior college at the time." And I said, "Yeah." And yeah, let's do it. So I jumped in, started working a lot of hours. I realized after a month or two, I was building these relationships with very successful people making millions of dollars and everybody. And my network started growing, and I started getting these tips, resources, referrals. Hey, you need to talk to this guy. This might be a good job for you. Or, hey, this one guy gave me a book. He said, read The Wealthy Barber. And next week when I come in to work out, I'll ask you about it. He did. And the basis of the book, it's a small 50-page book. Take 10% of your income and put it into a financial vehicle. And I did it. And interesting enough, 10 years later, I looked at that investment. It had $62,000. I thought I won the lottery because I'm still working and got my salary, but I had this money sitting there. So I called Tony. I said, "Tony, I want to thank you. Here's what happened." I said, "Can I give you $1,000? You're a financial advisor. You've advised me." He says, "No." I said, "Well, why not?" He says, "Here's what you did. Because you took my advice, which most people didn't, and didn't do really well. The people that did very well. You brought people into my universe that I will never probably have met. I don't know who, why, or where, but because you took action and I gave you value at no cost, it changed my world and it changed yours." Boom. I learned the power of networking and bringing value. And my life took off from there. Probably.
Now, how old were you at this point?
So 18, I was 28, and I worked another 10 years with the company till 2000. So I was 38 when we finally sold the business. But I built a network of 30 or 40,000 people. And it's interesting, Ruben. People would come up to go, "Hey, Steve, you ever get married? You're going to have to rent the Oakland A's baseball stadium." So many people, because I'd go out to eat, go somewhere. "Hey, there's Steve." I was in New Jersey once on vacation. A guy walked up to me, and I'm in Northern California. He tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "Hey, you're the manager of Royal Courts." That's the name of the club. I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I was a member there last year." I'm like, and my buddies are like, "What the heck?" But that's what the power of the network is.
So I think a lot of people learn to understand this later in life. How did you catch on to this so quickly as an 18-year-old?
The 60,000, first of all, I'm like, but I enjoyed it. I realized, and my cousin would say something, "Hey, you're meeting all these great guys and building the relationships." But and I can't remember all of the book is what really sticks out, but different things. "Hey, Steve, take your money and do this." "Hey, all right, have, a question. Hey, about my car, what should I look for in a car?" Well, a car dealership owner came in as a member. Hey, Mike Smythe, I think it was his name. Said, "Mike, I'm looking for a car." "Well, I got a GMC dealership. Why don't you go over there, pick a truck out, and I'll get you a good deal." I'm like, holy mackerel, just treat these guys with kindness and bringing them value as a member. I'm getting all these great stuff. And I didn't ask for it. He offered it. But again, Nowadays, when I bring value, I don't expect anything. I don't know how, when, or why my life's going to change. And I don't care. I care that Ruben gets some value. I brought you referrals. Just when you meet somebody for the first time or re-following up with somebody, always think of value. How can you help?
Now, some people are probably going to say, that's all great, Steve, back in the day, before the internet, before social media, but now it's all done online. It's all automated and AI anyway. What kind of place is there for this human to human touch in today's world?
First time I meet somebody, I had 4 meetings this morning of very young entrepreneurs. I start with them. Hey, tell me a little about yourself and what you do. And as they're talking, I'm thinking in my head, who can I refer them to? Where would they need help? And all 4 of them sent me emails after. Oh my God, are you sure you don't want to, I don't want to say, but you sure I don't owe you anything? Oh my God, that was such value. Boom. I did my job for the day. Now the flip side of that, people are like, well, you got to make money. Well, you know what? I've got huge partnerships that pay me a lot of money because I built this great network, but because I brought value. And they go, hey, Steve, we love you. You're a good guy. You're always looking out. We want you part of our business, and we'll pay you something to do that. And last year was my best year ever in 20 years.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. And most people would probably agree, but a lot of people are going to say, that's all fine. And 20 years later, it's paying off, but I've got to pay bills. I got to pay the mortgage. My kids need orthodontics or whatever now. How long is it going to take for this networking thing to really pay off? I don't want to be one of those slimy people who's trying to close everybody. I want to do the right thing. And I know you can't count on it right away, but like, is there a ballpark to even know kind of how long it might take?
I'm going to give you $1 million tip to your audience. And I'm going to say this real quick. This is why Ruben's a great businessman, and I'm a partner with him and a great host. What you just said there is so powerful. We don't want to sell people. We don't want to convince people. So this is what I tell entrepreneurs that are struggling to have that, I've got this orthodontics bill, or I've got to pay my mortgage, whatever that is. Yeah, we need to make money. So here's what you do. And this is coming from the value aspect. Go out through your network and find 5 or 10 people. I have 16 partners, but 5 or 10, and you're including one of them that I share, and campaign for them. Meaning, this is Tuesday. You can start this week, or whenever you listen to this, start 1 hour, 2 hours a week, and go through your network. If you have 100 people or 100,000, it doesn't matter, and find the people that can fit the product or service that is in your network of affiliates or commission-based, whatever you want to call it. I do that. Last week I did that, $1,800 I made. What am I doing? I'm bringing value to my friend or my network who has a great, in this case, was a business coach. They were looking for help. They connected. He sold them, basically became a client. I hate to use the word sold, but he did sell them. And I benefit because he pays me 20% commission. You're making that money that you need while your business is growing. The client's got a great coach to work with, and the coach has a new client, which can lead to more clients because as he takes care of that client, as you know, with your business, you do well and people are going to bring referrals to you. What a great way to make money.
That's a great point. And if I may, I'm going to just add a shameless plug that it's really helpful in all this. If your CRM has a field to help you keep track of who's an ideal client and who's an ideal referral partner for all of your contacts, and then you can just search them real quickly and make those connections more easily. Now, all that aside,
Perfect.
how much time are you going to devote to building your network versus sort of doing your actual work, if you will?
Great question. And it's got to be customizable to each person because everybody's different, but it depends where you are. Are you in hunter-gatherer mode? Meaning, are you growing your business? Maybe you're starting from 0, maybe you're starting from 25%, whatever you're at. Usually growth stage is 0 to $1 million. So if you're in that range, that's where you're hunter and gatherer. I mentor businesses all the time, meet 10 to 15 new people every week. So you meet 10 this week, 5 give referrals. So now you get 15 new people. You meet 10 next week, you get 10 referrals. Now you're at 35 people. And it just compounds, like compound interest in a financial vehicle. I did this January 2020, happened to be COVID, and it worked out great because we're all online. But within 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I met 500 new people.
So that's a lot more than 10 new people a week. But like you're saying, a lot of it is the people who are making the introductions. But let's just say that you're meeting 10 people a week, sort of the low end of your estimate, and they're not making any direct referrals. It's just 10 new people a week, 500 people a year. Let's say you go on vacation 2 weeks a year. 1,000 people in 2 years, 2,000 people in 4 years, et cetera. Sooner or later, you know so many people that you can't actually talk to all of them. So how do you decide sort of which relationships you're really going to nurture? I'm a big believer that we have to have conversations to really nurture relationships. And we can't do that. You might know 30,000 people, but you can't talk to all of them in a year. So what do we do when it actually starts getting to the point where it's like, oh my goodness, I actually know more people than I can keep up with?
Number I use is 10% are going to be your inner circle. Those people that you mentioned that you want to stay connected with, follow up. Very important. And throw back the CRM. Have to have it, whether you use Mimiran or a spread. I don't use Mimiran because I love it. If I didn't have a free one, I would be all over it. I would have told you that. But you're right. You have to keep track of this. I have 8,000 people in my network. Now I probably only work with 600 of them, but still, that's a lot of number. But here's the power of meeting people. Let's go spiritual a little bit. You meet 500 new people, I'll use your model. You brought value to all 500 people. I don't care what it is. I love your model. You made them happy. You gave them a referral, a tip, resource. Hey, try this. Or, hey, I'm going to sign up for your newsletter. I just did that with a lady today. She was so happy. When you bring value to 500 people, your universe changes. And what does that mean? You don't know how, why, or where, but something's coming to you. You know what came to me? 8 weeks ago, a billionaire called me. He told me he owns a huge network marketing company. Because I've been doing all this work of bringing value to people, the universe said, hey, this guy needs to. I don't know how, why, I'm not going to explain it, but it happened to me. And it's happening more and more when I'm meeting very successful business people. I won't say that, but a guy's going to introduce me to one of the top personal development guys. If I say his name, everybody will know. He's not on my show yet, but he'll bring 1 million people to my show. He's a Tony Robbins level. Because I brought value to him. He's like, I got to introduce you to this guy. He's got to be on your show. That's what happens when you bring value to those 500 people. Is it all money? Absolutely not. We wish, but keeping those 50, that 10% is your circle. Use your CRM to follow up, stay connected, and bringing value to those other people, because here's what happens. So one of those 450 people will use your model again. Part of my network I met a year ago. Last week on LinkedIn, I get this message. Hey, Steve, this is so-and-so. I want to connect you with, you're doing such a great job on your podcast. He can help you grow your network. A year later, she saw me on LinkedIn or whatever, the social media, but I kept bringing value. Here's a great podcast guest. So I love that question. I know it's hard, but go back to find some people you can sell. Campaign, I like that word better, of what they do to make some money, because it will come.
And sometimes I even think about, you don't have to sell or campaign or market. You're just connecting people who need each other that you happen to know, and they don't know each other yet.
Yep.
It's like if your friend says my back hurts and you happen to know this great back doctor who just helped you, you would of course want to make that introduction, right?
That's a great story, because I did that with my chiropractor last month. I've been with 15 years. Somebody said, man, I've got back pain. I'll say, hey, go see my chiropractor. Well, the next week he called me, goes, hey, he became a client. Oh, fantastic. Or patient. They call them patients. And all I did was an introduction. And here's a real tip when you do an introduction or referral. Don't worry about it. And that means send off that introduction. Make it short and simple. Don't try to sell the guy you're referring to. Just go, hey, Ruben, hey, Tony. I want, Ruben, meet Tony. He's such a rock star business guy, and he's got this great XYZ. And Tony, meet Ruben. He's got a CRM that can help your sales staff. Hope it's a fruitful connection. Very short, very concise. I didn't have to sell them, but I tell why I think both of you should connect, and you're done. I actually just talked about this morning. I was training some people. These 2 or 3 paragraph referrals, I won't read them. And I wouldn't read them anyways when I meet somebody, because I want to talk to Ruben when I first met you. I learned you had a CRM, you have this, and we got to learn about each other, discover. I'm saying not to go to LinkedIn and understand a little bit what they do. That's fine. But your majority of your learning is going to come with this conversation.
You know, you hit on one of my pet peeves, which is like the chapter long intro email that doesn't actually say anything. Steve Ramona has worked with a variety of people in numerous industries and won many awards and blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't tell me anything useful. And then it's like, for more details, see the attached one pager. And I'm like, I'm not opening the frickin' PDF, right? Like, just give me 1 to 3 sentences about why I should know Steve. That's all we need.
We're a microwave society. If they have to take extra time, they're not going to do it. And that's kind of sad to me, because there could be a huge opportunity there, because people don't understand. So passionate about this. I walk in every door. Like lady this morning, she's walking. She's not very big. She's struggling. Well, why would I meet with her? Because I want to bring her value. I don't know how I can help her, but I don't know who she knows. And it's happened many times where before I'd learned this, I wouldn't meet. I'm too tired, whatever. But now when I meet people like this personal development guy, and one guy I met, he's struggling. I think he was almost homeless. He's barely paying his rent. He introduced me to one of the top athletes in the world. How do you know this guy? He goes, I went to school with him. He's a good friend of mine. I wouldn't have gone there because I labeled him as not somebody who can help me. Remember, we're getting to people's networks. When I met you, Ruben, or you met me, we discovered each other. We liked each other. Guess what? We opened our networks up to each other. That's the power of this marketing. The relationship marketing is so powerful, especially now because we're doing it online.
And it's funny because I was just sharing a pet peeve based on your last story. And this one makes me think of sort of the whatever the opposite of a pet peeve is. Well, like one of my favorite things is when you have one of those introductions, you're like, I don't get why I'm supposed to meet with this person, but Steve says I should meet with him, so I'm going to do that. And then you meet with him and you're like, oh, I get it. This is so awesome.
Yeah. And you may do it and it may not be good. And, you know, rarely does it happen to me because that's one of my superpowers and anybody can learn it. And here's how you learn it, audience. Shut up and listen. Meaning, listen, you know, because a lot of people will shut up. If you're into a big group Zoom, we've all done them, and there's 4 or 5, you know, Brady Bunch windows, and you see the one guy he turns off his camera, or he's looking away, or he's not paying attention. Well, he shut up, he put himself on mute, but he didn't listen. How am I going to bring value to Ruben if I don't listen about his product, his service, what his struggles may be, what he's doing great at, who he's looking to connect with, those type of things. The other thing is ask questions.
Or even what kind of energy does this person have? What kind of person will this person get along with?
Yeah, so true. So true. And it's not hard. It's a skill you got to practice. Serving is a skill, like gratitude's a skill, like loving everybody. Those are all skills, or maybe habits. We can go that way too. You've got to practice them. But I mean, I do it subconsciously. I jump into a meeting and right away I'm listening. And if I got to speak first, I'll do what I tell them what I do, the discovery. But when they start talking, I start listening and I ask questions. Hey, what's your challenge? How is your goal? Are you close to your goal? How can I help you get to your goal? And people use that for sales. I use it for value. What do I mean? I learn all this and then I can bring them value. So my introductions are much better than I don't go, here's a marketing person and I send them Tom Brady, the Super Bowl champion. Well, he's not going to use a small marketing account. Well, he probably won't. There's just not a fit there, and he's not looking to grow anything. So when you're listening, shut up and listening, you'll be able to give more value. More value leads to a better universe, which means more gifts your way.
Now, this segues nicely into one of I think the big questions that people probably have at this point, which is, Steve, this sounds amazing. I'm sure it works great for you. You've got the skills, you've got the habit. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. But if you're sitting there, especially if you're an introvert, the thought of doing this and doing it with 10 new people every week might seem terrifying. How can people start to build the skills, build the habit, whatever you want to refer to it as, so that they can actually not only get the benefits for themselves, but share the benefits they have to offer their little pocket of the universe, when I know that so many of these people have a lot of trouble following up with the people they already know?
Great question. Really good question. Introverts out there, write down 3 questions. What are your challenges? How long have you been doing it? What's your goals? You can use those or find the questions around just and ask that question. Tony Smith, tell me what you do. Oh, that's great. How long have you been doing it? What's your challenges right now? Oh, I need more people, and I just lost 5 clients. And then next question could be, what's your goal for this year? What's your goal for the next 3 years? Borrow those 3 questions, but have them written down. I use my iPad for notes, but have them written down. Put them on your computer. Put them on your desk, wherever, because a question leads to conversation. That's what podcasts are all about. It's what we're doing here.
I think that's a great point. And I think something that is kind of lost in society is that when it comes to these kind of connective conversations, as long as you can show up as an introvert, you have a huge advantage because you can shut up and listen. In fact, you like doing that.
Well said. That's exact. You have a huge advantage. Me, I used to like to talk too much because I get excited. I want to, prove that I'm good. And I realized for 30 years I've been serving. And here's another great tip. This is going to be a great podcast. I'm going to give you guys so many tips that I've learned from other people. When you're giving and bringing value, make sure you do the infinity loop. And if people know what that is, there's just audio. It's that loop that circles back around. Looks like a sideways 8. Well, I learned last year, a guy very, very wealthy earned all his money serving. He'd serve everybody the money. He $250 million. So I know it works. He said, Steve, what do you do? I said, hey, I give a bunch of referrals to Ruben. And then he asked me, how can I help you? And I go, oh, I'm good, Ruben. Hey, enjoy those referrals. I'm thinking, I just served Ruben. I walk away, I'm good. He goes, Steve, you just blew up your universe. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you turned Ruben into a taker because you give them so much. They want to help you, support you, and you cut them off. That's why your serving wasn't working. So if you're out there and want to do this, and not everybody has to do it, I think they should, but you want to out there serve, make sure you're ready when somebody says, how can I support you? You have something you could do. It could be your podcast. It could be whatever it is, but give them something they can help you with, support you with. And if they don't have anything, that's okay too. I had a lady this morning. She goes, Steve, I don't know millionaires. I know you work with millionaires. I said, that's okay. Just keep it in the back of your mind. If you run into one, I'd love an introduction. She goes, oh my God. And you could just feel the energy. She just got relaxed. Like I've given her so much. I asked for the ask, but she didn't have anything. And that's okay. I always say I could care less. I said, doesn't bother me. Because you know what? When I served her, my universe changed. She tried to help me. She couldn't at this time. Eventually it will. Maybe another place, another time, somewhere else.
Well, and sometimes somebody may not know how to help you in the moment because they haven't been paying attention for what you're looking for. But once you kind of register that in their brain, then the next week they suddenly notice something they wouldn't have noticed before in someone they meet, and they can make that connection.
There you go. And you get those referrals later. It's, I probably look at my email right now. I probably have 1 or 2 referrals. It's amazing to me how people, and we're human. When we like somebody and somebody's treated us well, Christmas is a perfect time. We wake up Christmas morning, adults or kids, doesn't matter. Hey, what gifts did I get today? Well, imagine doing that 365 days a year. You bring gifts to people every day.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that the infinity loop. To me, that was Bob in The Go-Giver, Bob Berg's 5 laws of what we're supposed to do. The one that was the most counterintuitive to me, and realized the one that maybe I didn't understand very well, because all the rest of them are pretty obvious. It's just a matter of practicing them. But the law of reciprocity is exactly what you're saying. Like, you have to be able to receive as well as give, because otherwise you cut off the flow and people don't feel right. We want to be able to both give and receive.
I use infinity loop because I have a hard time saying reciprocity, which I just said pretty good right there. So I just use infinity.
There we go.
And I'm glad you said that. And that comes from Think and Grow Rich. That's a tip. That's the book that's changed my whole life. Chapter 4, Law of Increase. And then I don't know what chapter law of reciprocity is, but the law of increase. He increased Henry Ford. I just said it. All those, the wealthiest guys in the world, he brought them value. If he could bring them value as this low guy walking around interviewing people, he wasn't making a lot of money. then I can bring value to them. You can bring value. Audience, you can bring value to anybody. Here's the key word. This is the most important word. Ask. Hey, billionaire, are you looking for help with your podcast? Yeah, I am. I'd love to help you. I've got some great ideas. Okay, let's negotiate. And then we go into the business mode. The other flip side is you ask the billionaire or whoever, hey, I can help you. No, I'm good. I've got somebody helping me, or hey, I don't want to, whatever. And they say no. God bless you. Shake your hands or virtually shake. And then you walk away. You talk to the next person. That's all that's going to happen. Nobody has ever gotten mad at me. Probably you too, Ruben. I want to speak for you. When I ask for something, hey, I need help with this.
And I think it also depends on how you ask, right?
Yeah.
There are people who come and they want to stab you with their pitch. And of course, they're going to get a bunch of people being upset with them, but it doesn't have to be that way. You could just have a conversation. And the way I kind of look at it is we evolved to be in these small bands of people where everybody knew everybody and everyone was supposed to help each other out. And we don't live that way. And so we're a little bit lost and adrift. And with Zoom and the internet and social media and smartphones and AI and all, it's like, in some ways it makes life better, but it also takes us even further from our natural habitat. But by doing the thing that you're talking about, it's like we are going around in our little band, like, oh, do you need help carrying that animal back to the camp? Do you need help digging that well? Whatever it is that somebody's working on that you would just naturally do if you happen to bump into somebody in your tribe. That's how we're supposed to function.
Yeah. I have a phrase. Short-term money is when you sell somebody. Like you said, you pitch and you sell. That's short-term. You're going to have a client for 2 to 3 months. Or long-term money is when you serve and build a relationship. So would you rather have a client, 100 clients for 2 months, or 50 clients for 4 years, 2 years, 3 years? Just run those numbers and what you're doing as a business. I guarantee you most of the time, those 2 or 3 year clients are going to make you more money, because that's the bottom line. We're both not saying not to make money. Abundance is important. But how do you make the money? Short term or long term? Make the decision.
Well, and then if you have a fewer number of clients for a longer period of time, that's fewer sales cycles you have to deal with. And as somebody who doesn't like sales, I'd rather have fewer sales cycles, right? You're probably going to get a lot more referrals from those long-term clients than from people coming in and out and so on and so forth. So Steve, if people like what they're hearing from you, where can they find you to learn more?
You can go to my digital business card at infone.co/podcast, infone.co/podcast, or go to, I'm on LinkedIn. A lot of my podcasts, all my podcasts go on there and shows. It's just Steve Ramona, SteveRamona. Almost couldn't spell my own name there.
If you're off doing something and can't write any of that down or won't remember it, don't worry. Of course, all those links will be in the show notes. Steve, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate all your advice.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Drop an iTunes review or a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who would benefit from this episode,